So are these things you've created in the past, or these are just a bank of things that exist?
So this is all the types of questions that would exist. So from the math perspective, our favorite is going to be this fill in the blank, and then down here, the math, text, and drop down. This is probably the one we use 90% of the time. And so we can go in here, and what this pulls up is an opportunity here where we can have our sample question with these types of inputs. Do you want it to be a writing? Do you want it to be a drop down? Do you want it to be math, or do you want it to be math with units? And so as we type this in, there's usually a how to author option up here. So when you select this, if you're like, how do I do this type of question? They will always have a little video that says, okay, I think this is what I want. Before I get started and get too far, is this really how I'm creating it? And so just the number of problems that we can get here as we're looking at the types of questions, it's just amazing the number that we can get here. And so when we go look to create a new item, if I was
gonna say there is a bank of questions all through there. This is really talking about creating your own.
Okay.
But like as far as like other subjects as well, I mean, there's writings here. You can do read a passage and answer questions. Just the amount and how they're working there. If you're in social studies, you can do a map where you want them to specifically type or hit a hotspot. It's just amazing. And it's really responsive. And again, the kids are getting a really good practice with that. And the immediate feedback is so important. So like Julie was saying, when we're looking at, just lost my thought. You were saying we
like the question bank?
Yes, like the question bank.
Okay. We have to keep typing. You have to have a test name for you to be able to like start going. But there is a bank of all different questions. So typically what pulls up here is kind of what I was looking at, probably somewhere along the lines, or it's trying to give me a suggestion. But there are different options. Like you can type a skill right here. You can pick. Well, did you want to add something?
So this opens up immediately to the entire library. So right now we have options of 377,000 questions that have been created by other teachers, and they're shared and selected that way.
Yeah, and then you can start doing a lot of different filters down here. I have done this here and there just to come up with some different question ideas, but typically I have an idea of how I want to ask it, and then I make that work. And so there's just, like I said, a ton of options. But one of the things, like different types right there. But I was going to say the ones that say Edulastic certified was the guy's suggestion before about what to use. But you can make multi-step questions, like this one. Maybe I just want it to be like a number answer, but this one I want them to write in a response. So you can actually break in parts and things as well. It's made grading for me tremendously faster because I'm looking at things that are right. And what we've done now is paired something that they're writing with it so we can check their written work. But even now, like we're giving a quiz coming up next week, we've built these problems to prompt all the thoughts we want. So we really don't even need anything extra. It's really showing their thought process because we always have that person who doesn't show any work. This, we can like prompt them to show the thoughts that we want to see. So yeah, we're like really big Edulastic fans.
So do all your assignments, do they all have like, is that your path? Is Edulastic for your assessments and all your practice now?
Everything.
Okay, so it's real routine for the kids, and they get that fast feedback, and they get more comfortable with the platform each time.
Yes. So in our class, they still take notes online with a notes packet that they can still refer to, and then when they get started, they have everything else is on Edulastic.
Okay. So are there any tips? You've given lots of tips. You've shown things that I haven't seen yet, like just as far as how the creation part goes, because that's, I think, a piece teachers are still trying to figure out. They're using the pre-made tests and stuff, but what would be like some of your top 3 tips for someone who's just getting started?
The willingness to, I think it's the willingness to play with it and just say, okay, here's what I've done in the past where like I really am a paper person where I really needed this is what I want to create. So I already knew I had the questions ready. And so it was taking what I knew I wanted to see and transferring in. And that's again where we were looking at 90% of those problems are going to fall for the math classes into that question type here, math, text, drop down, where I think most of our tests are filling that in. And so I think it was the idea of, okay, how do I move a picture over? Okay, I can cut and paste into this. That's great. I don't have to save, just playing with it and becoming more efficient. Looking at where we were last September to now, I mean, just the willingness to stick with it. We have grown so much on how we want to ask something, how they can show their work and demonstrate. So I think my number one tip is to say, just try something and just go with it and have the kids, they're really resilient, not resistant, to really trying it and being like, they'll give you that feedback of, oh, this was awkward, this was okay. So my first tip would be to just dive in and try it.
I guess for my thought is, I've said this for Canvas, for Delta, and for Edulastic. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want it to do? What are you trying to get something to show you? And so I feel like that's been our biggest conversation about creation is, what do you want to see from the kids? And then that's where you can kind of go through all of these options and see there's just so many different ways that they can present. So even graphing, like it can look like a hot mess when it's on paper and it's not accurate. It's really cool to graph even like parabolas, for example. They plot the vertex and like a point, and then it connects. It's nice and smooth. It's confirming at the same time for them what it should look like. So I think we've had a lot of like, oh, I wish we could ask this, and then we do. And so really getting the kids to kind of go through, and that just takes, working together too. I really suggest like finding people that are kind of fired up like you about it, and asking questions like, can you do this with it?
And we did, I guess our third tip would probably be find like somebody that's fired up and excited to try it. I would create something and share it, and she would pretend she's a student and take it. She would create something, share it. I would pretend I'm a student and take it. Just so that even as we're creating something, we would just make sure that
what does it look like?
Yeah, what does it look like? How does that grade? Yeah.
That's a really good. So I've worked with several PLCs. There's a lot of PLCs coming together wanting to sit down and go through the settings together and set it all up together. So I think that's it's great when everyone in the PLC is real excited to use the program together.
Yeah, you can always too, when you're creating something, you can clone problems, so you don't always have to start back from scratch. You can also clone an assignment. Like let's say Andrea made something and I'm like, okay, well, I always say it like this. I can clone it and I can change just a few of the directions the way that I say it. So we can still be giving the same thing, getting the same data and feedback, but it can be a little bit more how I present something versus Andrea. So you definitely have your own abilities to put your touches on it.
Especially for modifications, because Julie has co-taught classes where students need those modifications, where maybe a picture needs to be highlighted or some scaffolding within the problems. And so having that ability to start with the assignment and adjust instead of
creating from scratch. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so my last question is this: is there anything advanced users might be excited to learn from you guys, or is there something you could show that an advanced user might be ready to dive in and try?
I think that's just really more adventurous with the type of problems that you would do.
Gotcha.
That's where I would say graphing became something really cool. And then it made me think about, in a different class, how to graph maybe like some trig functions. So then I searched in the part when you picked a question type, I would search there and I would start to see like, does anyone ask this question in a way that I think is cool that I could build off of? So my response to that would be like venturing out a little bit on your types of questions and doing multi-step ones too, because that like the multi-parts are very cool where you can mix these and match them.
And I would piggyback on that. While 90% of us are here, I think the more advanced users are going to start to use label and image with text. So if we looked at an assignment like recent that we've been working on here, on multiplying and dividing radicals, the question type on this one for an advanced user, this is a picture that our students are now filling in that thought process that's happening here. And so they're able to type in the process. Our calculator will take it from here down to the answer, but we're not that concerned about the answer. We're using this picture behind it to fill in the work that goes down to the answer.
And that's like a picture we create. Like we type this up, we take a screenshot of that, we put it in, drag the boxes in the right spot. So that kind of part of like learning the question types is it's just really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So they're showing their work along the way, and it's completely different than
Mhm.
like taking a picture and like of submitting work. You can see the work right here digitally, which is awesome.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very cool.
And I mean, I can tell you, if we did this on paper, how many people would just go straight to the solution? And then, you know, it's so hard to like take all these points off because you don't know if they did it by hand or in paper. And you can say, show your work, and they still won't. So this forces them to put something in, or if they truly don't know it, you're going to see that because they're only going to fill in the bottom boxes.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to add about Edulastic? I know you guys are, I call you guys super users. I think I called this the powerhouse users with Dale and Taylor.
I would
So
say, like, just start small. I think people look at it and it's like really overwhelming because you're like, oh my gosh, I would have to make all this stuff. And it's like, you just have to kind of pick a few things that you would want to see. And then it does get a lot quicker making it. And you can always divvy up work with other people. We tend to be kind of like creator hogs. Like we really like to get in there and like make all these different things. And I think that we push each other to kind of say like, oh, could we do it this way or do it that way? I don't remember what the question was, but start small on
Okay.
things, or like be willing to use like some of the problems that they have and build on it, or kind of like what you said about like take a worksheet you already have and just try and turn it into it and see, you know, how does it work for you, and just start somewhere.
awesome. Anything else from you, Andrea?
No, that's about the same thing I would say as well, where, you know, the exciting part about Edulastic is the feedback, is that communication with the students that is happening in real time. So if you see a red, where, you know, Julie's my student who has missed 3 problems in a row, I can intervene right then and say, oh, hold on, you're skipping a step here. Let's go back. Let's think about what our notes look like. How do we reflect? And so that communication and
It's
that
awesome.
is
Yeah.
just amazing.
Like even just at your computer, they don't even know that you're checking on them, and you might be like, hey, so and so, it's your rounding on number 4, and you see them like, oh, okay.
Oh, I rounded.
You know, yeah, it's just really cool.
And
like,
that's
I've
what
never-
makes us so excited about it. And using it, it's like the kids love it too,
Awesome.
ish.
I was gonna say, I think they do.
The kids that want the feedback
Yeah,
really like
no,
it.
they do. They do really like it. And just that live feedback is just, I've never looked at homework quite the same way that I have since we've had Edulastic.